What if the company that was supposed to save humanity is actually the biggest threat to it? Not because their AI is going to become Skynet and kill us all, but because of something way more boring and way more dangerous. Money, power, and guy who might be one of the biggest liars in Silicon Valley history. Stick with me because by the end of this video, you are going to look at ChatGPT very differently. So here where we start. OpenAI was founded as a non-profit. Their whole pitch to the world was simple. We are going to build the most powerful AI in history, and we are going to share it with everyone. No one company owns it. One person controls it. It belongs to humanity. That was the promise. Now let's talk about what actually happened. First, the people who actually believed in the mission, they are all gone. The co-founder and chief scientist and the guy responsible for the most OpenAI actual breakthroughs tried to remove CEO Sam Altman from the board. 3 days later, Altman was back. The co-founder was out. Then the head of the safety team resigned, publicly said that safety had taken a backseat to shiny products. Then the super alignment team, the team literally responsible for making sure AI does not go catastrophically wrong, was completely shut down. Then the CTO left, the chief research officer left, the VP of research left. Nearly half of all safety researchers walk out. And here's the details that tells you everything. OpenAI had publicly promised to dedicate 20% of their computing power to AI safety research. The actual number between 1 and 2% on the oldest hardware with the worst chips, and when someone complained about it, they were told to drop it. This is not a company that was lost its way. This is a company that was always heading somewhere specific, and the people who did not like where it was going kept jumping off. Now let's talk about Sam Altman. In 2023, he sat in front of Congress and said under oath that he had no equity in OpenAI, that he made only $76,000 a year, that he was doing this because he loved it, not for the money. Around the same time, he was photographed getting out of 4 million car. Multiple people interviewed for a major New York investigation and prompted use the same word to describe him. Sociopathic. One board member described him like this: he was two traits almost never seen in the same person, a given conversation and an almost total lack of concern for the consequence of deceiving someone. When the board fired him in 2023, they pushed him to acknowledge a pattern of deception. His response, according to people on that call, was, "I can't change my personality." One board member interpretation of that, he was basically saying, "I lied to people and I'm not going to stop." He was fired, and then 3 days later he came back with more power than before. Now here where it gets really serious. OpenAI usage policy used to explicitly ban off use of their technology for military and warfare. It was written right there in their policies. Then in January 2024, while Altman was speaking the World Economics Forum in Davos, someone quietly deleted it from the website. When they were caught, OpenAI said the right was just to make things clear, and then came to Pentagon deal. OpenAI signed a contract with the US Department of Defense, now operating a classified military environments. A former Army General Counsel reviewed the contract and concluded that their anti-surveillance protections basically don't exist. One of OpenAI own researchers called the safety guardians window dressing. Here's the part that should make you uncomfortable. The contract leans on the same legal framework the NSA has used for decades to justify surveillance of Americans by collecting data outside US borders. And here's the thing. Every time you open your phone, your data crosses international servers, which means it can fall outside the legal definition of domestic collections. Even if you never leave your house, hundreds of OpenAI and Google employees sign on open letter. One of the most popular posts in the history of the ChatGPT subreddit told users to cancel their subscription. It said, "You are training a war machine." And while all of this was happening, people were dying as of early 2026. OpenAI is facing at least 8 wonderful death lawsuits. Teenagers, young adults, a 40 years old man, and 83 years old woman killed by her own son after ChatGPT illegally validated his paranoid delusions for months. And when the parents of a teenager who died by suicide after using ChatGPT started pushing for regulations, OpenAI sent them a legal demand for documents. There is also a case of a man who worked at OpenAI for nearly 4 years. A co-founder said his contribution was essential, that the products would not have succeeded without him. He became disillusioned, quit, went public with the New York Times, and was named a potential witness in major copyright lawsuits. 1 month later, he was found dead in San Francisco apartment, ruled as self-inflicted. No charges filed. His family disputed the findings. His mother pointed out he had just come back from vacations. He had just celebrated his 26th birthday the day before. He had just spoken to a family member on the phone. There was a blood in multiple rooms. The surveillance cameras were not working. There was a wig soaked in blood that was not here. A pen drive potentially containing evidence was missing. The investigation took 40 minutes. OpenAI has not been charged with anything. There is a no proven wrongdoing, but the question his family is asking, nobody has answered them. Now let's talk about the money, because this is where it affects you directly. Even if you are never opened ChatGPT in your life, OpenAI is heading towards an IPO. They are aiming for valuation of around 1 trillion. That is roughly 40 times what the company actually earns, higher than the most companies at the peak of the dot-com bubble. They pulled in around 25 billion in revenue and still lost 8 billion in 2025. Their own projections show losses getting worse before they get better. They expect to hit profitability somewhere around 2029 or 2030 maybe. But here is the part of the most people don't realize. The S&P 500 is reportedly rewriting its rule fast track the OpenAI and other AI companies onto the index within days of their IPO, skipping the usual waiting periods that exist to let a stock prove itself. If that happens, every fund tracking the S&P 500 is forced to buy their stock. Your 401,000 year pension and your retirement savings automatically holding shares in a company that has never turned profit, and whatever inflated price it launches at. The Bank of England already warned about this. Some of the biggest teachers pension funds have started quietly reducing their AI exposure, but most people have no idea their retirement is already tied to whether the works out. And here's the vision of Altman is selling for the future. He wants to sell you intelligence like a utility, like electricity or water. You pay for it by the meter, and if there is not enough, it goes to the people who can afford it. His words, not mine. He keeps gun, gold, gas marks, and patch of land in Big Sur. In case things go completely wrong, he's admitted that AGI actually goes catastrophically bad. None of it would help anyway, but they describe it as fun hobby. This is the man running the company that is being plugged into government system, military, contracts, and your retirement saving. OpenAI has deleted its own safety promises, impeded on safety teams, signed military contracts with protection that legal experts say don't hold up, sued the parents of a dead teenager for asking questions, and is now preparing to ask the general public to fund all of it through an IPO. The charter still says benefits all of humanity, but at some point the words don't matter anymore. You have to watch what they actually do, and what they are doing is becoming impossible to remove from every system that runs your life and then charging you for the dependency. That is not a conspiracy theory, that is a business model. If you want me to go deeper on the Pentagon contract, the IPO, or the death case, drop it in the comments. I'll cover whichever one gets the most votes. Thank you.